using a transform. When I'm unable to identify the details present in the given signal, I will depend upon a transform. So therefore, transform is a tool for changing the domain of the signal in which the information and the energy of the signal is as it is being present. Some transform will distribute the energy in some way, some other transform will distribute the signal energy in some other way. Some transform will distribute the information present in the signal in fewer number of coefficients, transform domain coefficients, and some transforms will preserve the energy in almost all the coefficients, or some transforms requires only very few number of transform domain coefficients for extracting the original information, that is what is being present in the signal. And there is a one-to-one mapping will exist in between the transform of a signal and the inverse transformed version of the signal. When you can be capable of establishing a one-to-one correspondence, that is the first requirement. And when you are capable of performing the inverse transformation, then only for every signal processing application, we are supposed to apply a transform. The basic fundamental thing is we should be capable of establishing a one-to-one correspondence between the transform domain coefficients and the time or spatial domain information bearing signal, what is there we are using for transformation. That is the first requirement. The second requirement is that we should be capable of performing the inverse transform. Existence of inverse transform is very much essential for signal processing applications. Why? Because if you are unable to perform the inverse transformation, the transform is of no use. What is that the transform will do? Let us say when you look into a white light, we do not know the white light comprises of 7 different colors, V, I, B, G, Y, O, R. How come you know that the white light comprises of these many different colors, V, I, B, G, Y, O, R? When we make these white light to pass through a prism, the outcome of the prism will scatter the signal, will distribute the signal, or will classify the signal into several different frequency components based on its wavelength. So we will come to know what are the different colors that are being present in the white light. Similarly, when I try to use a transform, my objective of utilizing a transform is I'm interested in what is the information that is being present inside the signal. Let us say the discrete Fourier transform. When you are interested in looking into a discrete Fourier transform, okay, the discrete Fourier transform will show what are the low frequency components present in the signal, what are the mid frequency components present in the signal, and what are the high frequency components that are present in the signal. When I'm interested in looking into the frequency content present in a signal, there is no doubt that people will resort to an age-old transform, what we call it as a Fourier transform. So Fourier transform will give us the several different frequencies that are being present in a given signal. When you look into an image, let us suppose the image is an image of a classroom, an image of a particular city, an image of moon, an image of a habitation, an image of a big congregation. So when you are interested in looking into the detail, what are the low frequency content, what is the high frequency content, and what is the mid frequency content? As it is from the image, you cannot extract the content. Just on Fourier transformation, we can come to know what are the low frequency components, what are the mid frequency components, and what are the high frequency components. So therefore, most of the thumb rules will play like this. Majority of our signal processing applications, a lot of the signal content falls in a low and mid frequency region, and the majority of the high frequency content we deem it to be a kind of noise. So the highest frequency component present in any signal may be doubted like a noise. Not always noise will be occupying the high frequency content. Sometimes the sharp detail present in a signal also can be considered as the high frequency detail. Likewise, when I would like to look more detail into my signal, I will go for a transform. In this class, we will see some of the linear transforms, which may be represented as the orthogonal products of their basis. So why we represent them as orthogonal or bi-orthogonal representation of the basis function? The reason is the information and listen carefully, the information and the kind of energy that is being distributed among the transform coefficients of a particular signal are almost same. You name a DFT, you name a DCT, you name Walsh transform, you name Hardeman transform, or you name Haar transform. The information content that is being present and the energy content that is being present in the signal, you are interested in representing. The way in which DFT distributes the information and energy content is different from that of DCT. It is different in the Walsh transform, DWT. It is different from Hardeman transform, and it is different from Haar transform. But basically, what I would like to tell you is, these are all comes under the category of linear transforms. In almost all the linear transforms, it represents the signal as a series summation of either their orthogonal products or their bi-orthogonal representation. One representation may differ from that of the other, but in almost all the representations, they will just distribute the information content present in the signal and the energy present in the signal in the transform domain coefficients. In the transformed coefficients, it will just distribute the energy and the kind of information that is we are interested in representing the signal. So why we go for a transform? We are interested in computing the transform of the signal, or we are interested in looking into the detail present in the signal in a faster way. For example, convolution versus multiplication for filter with a wide support, conceptual insights for various image processing like spatial frequency information like a smooth content, any moderate change that is being present, any fast change that is being present, and we will look into these details present in the image. The fast change is the change detection which we use in images as well in video also. We are basically interested in obtaining the transformed data as a measurement. What is the transformed data which we want to use it as a measurement? We generally take some blurred images or radiology images which are used in medical applications and in astrophysics. So the transformed data is used as a measurement. If you see a blurred image, when an image is much blurred, we cannot look into the content that is being present. Basically, when we low pass signal any image, directly I'm discussing with respect to the image. If a radiographer just scans your organ, and if the image that is being obtained is blurred, then what is that we are supposed to do is, we will resort to a particular transform and we will try to look into the detail. And sometimes we need an inverse transformation, and we need the assistance of every, there is always a need for a transform. For efficient storage and transmission, another advantage with transformation is, in almost all transform domain representation of the signal, we need the storage space that is required for storing the transform domain coefficients is much less when compared to that of the storage space that is being required when the signal is as it is stored. So therefore, transform is required for fast computation, looking into the more conceptual insights into the signal, and looking into the detail present in a signal. For example, when the signal is blurred, some of the radiology and medical and astrophysics data, mostly they will be blurred. That is, astrophysics data and medical data that is being collected maybe mostly need pre-processing. We generally use a transform as a pre-processing tool sometimes. And The last but not least advantage is it minimizes the required storage space requirement. So why I am interested in looking into the image transforms, which are a class of unitary matrices. It is just a play with the matrix applications for representing an image. An image can be expanded as in terms of a discrete set of basis arrays called as basis images. In transform, this basis image is corresponding to the basis function of a transform. The basis function of the DFT is e power j theta j cos theta plus j sin theta. The basis function of DCT is different. The basis function for Walsh transform is different. The basis function for Hadamard transform is different. The basis function for Hart transform is different. What is that we do is we try to convolve the signal with the basis function of a transform. We will be converting the entire signal into the transform domain signal. This transform domain signal comprises of the transform coefficients which requires less storage space and which can be utilized to look into the more detail of the signal, and whatever the kind of application or operation you are interested in performing on the image or the signal, you can do. The basis images can be generated by unitary matrices. The kind of unitary matrices we can see here. We start with the one-dimensional orthogonal and unitary transforms. So for 1D sequence, let us suppose U of n is a one-dimensional sequence ranging from 0 to n minus 1, represented as a vector U of size capital N. A unitary transformation can be written as those who are with a piece of paper and pen, please note it down. Vk may be represented as sigma n equal to 0 to n minus 1, Akn Un. For 0 less than or equal to k less than or equal to n minus 1. So this is the unitary transformation, representation of a vector as a unitary transform. The one-dimensional sequence Un may be represented as the Akn is the unitary transform which we use in order to represent the 1D sequence Un as Vk. Here we may be, in terms of the matrix, you can represent V as A times U. If U is being post multiplied, pre-multiplied with A times U may be called as V, where V may be represented as A star T, that is for every unitary transformation, A inverse is A star transpose, that is the conjugate transpose of a particular matrix is utilized in order to calculate the original basis function. Here, actually U is A inverse V, A inverse is being represented as A star transpose. Here, U of n may be, again, this is what is the inverse transformation, or in any unitary transformation, the forward transformation kernel is Akn, we want to call it. The inverse transformation kernel is A star Kn, where Vk is the series representation of the sequence Un, and Vk is the unitary transformation representation of the series or the sequence Un. Here Ak plus Ak comma n may be represented as the forward transformation kernel, and A star Kn may be represented as the inverse transformation kernel. Here, on inverse transformation, U of n may be represented as sigma k equal to, here the varying quantity will become k. For the forward transformation, the varying quantity is n. N is ranging from 0 to n minus 1, Akn U of n, whereas here k equal to 0 to n minus 1, Vk A star Kn, where U and V are being represented in terms of a matrix. If A is a matrix that is being utilized, Akn matrix is being utilized to calculate the forward unitary transformation. Here, we want to call A as the unitary transformation matrix. A is called as the unitary transformation matrix. Here, when I want to utilize or when I want to get back my original sequence Un, this is how we can get back the original sequence, and in as a matrix representation, U may be represented as A star transpose V, where Vk is the series representation of the sequence Un. The columns of A star T, that is the vector Ak star or A star K, is equal to A star Kn. If A star Kn is represented here, A star Kn Vkm will give the original sequence, where 0 less than or equal to n less than or equal to capital N minus 1 transpose are called the basis vectors of the transformation matrix A. The unitary transformation matrix A here may be obtained by the basis vectors of A with AK AK star. So if the same is being extended to 2 dimensions, why? Because image is a 2-dimensional signal. Image is a 2-dimensional signal. Here, how image becomes a 2-dimensional signal, you can just look into the diagram. If f of xy is an image, then the number of rows and columns may be represented like this. If f of xy is an image, then the rows and columns are represented for this f of x comma y. If f of xy is an image, right? This is my image. These are my rows, that is my x, and these are my columns. And this is what is the image origin. We want to call it as F00. Okay. So x comma y is known as the location. F is called as value. It comprises of several rows, okay, and several columns. Each row column intersection is called as the minute element that you can identify in an image. A minute element that I can represent in an image is called as pixel. Okay. So this pixel is being represented with the coordinate x comma y. How much intensity information is being present is represented by f. So therefore x comma y represents to the location, f represents the value. So when I'm interested in representing a 2-dimensional function x of m1, okay, this x of m1 can be regarded or can be just assumed similar to a signal like an image. If f of xy is an image, I can represent the same f of xy as x of m1. Here f represents to x and x comma y represents to m comma n, where the number of rows is m and the number of columns is n. For an image of size n by n, U of mn is a pair of transformation of the form where a general orthogonal series expansion for an n by n image. If an image is of here, the mathematical equation and the kind of representation that we have shown here is, it is m by n only. YKL, if the transformation, the 2-dimensional transformation, if you want to represent x of mn, which is an image, AKL m comma n, which is the kernel. When this is what is the kernel, I am interested in representing a 2-dimensional function as an orthogonal and a unitary transform. And I can get back my original signal x of mn as a double summation of k equal to 0 to n minus 1 and L equal to 0 to n minus 1. Here, if x of mn is being considered as an image, m is equal to n. Why? Because m and n are ranging from 0 to n minus 1 and 0 to n minus. The size of the image is n by n. Here it is being represented. When you are representing the size of the signal as n by n, then the rows and the columns may be ranging from 0 to n minus 1. M corresponds to the row and n corresponds to the column. AKL m comma n is called as the image transformation function, which is called as is a set of complete orthonormal discrete basis function. It is the complete orthonormal discrete basis function if and only if I can get back my original signal through inverse transformation. X of mn is sigma k equal to 0 to n minus 1 and L equal to 0 to n minus 1. YKL and A star KL mn. Here The A star KL and AKL are the two unitary transformation. This is the unitary transformation matrix and the corresponding inverse unitary transformation matrix, where if you can get it back by the inverse transformation, where A star KL is the complex conjugate of AKL Mn. If AKL Mn is the called as an image transformation, then such a transformation is known as the orthonormal discrete basis function of the forward transformation kernel AKL Mn. And the separable transforms, separable unitary transforms will require a complexity of the order of n power 4, and we try to reduce it to order of n power 3 when transformation is separable. Separable means when I want to represent the forward transformation kernel AKLMN, which is the image transformation orthonormal discrete basis function of this particular two-dimensional transformation function, if I can be capable of representing AKL of Mn as AKM and BL of n, then I can compute it as AK, M times and B Ln, where AKM is ranging from 0 to n minus 1 with K ranging from 0 to n minus 1. B of Ln may be represented and computed between L ranging from 0 to n minus 1. Here, a two-dimensional transformation, we are just computing it as two one-dimensional transformations, and 1D complete orthonormal set of basis vectors are being represented here. This kind of a representation is known as a separable representation. What is the advantage with separable transforms when compared to an ordinary unitary transforms is, a unitary transform requires a minimum computation complexity of n power 4. A separable transform which is unitary may be requiring an order of n power 3. So therefore, the unitary transformation matrix which may be made separable, we can reduce the computation complexity, which is again one of the needs for a transform. We need transform for fast computation. For fast computation, not only the unitary transformation is being helpful, we should also be capable of utilizing a separable transform. So therefore, transforms which are unitary and separable, we could be capable of performing the transformation better. Let us consider the separable unitary transforms capital A and capital B, which may be represented as AKM and BLN, are unitary matrices. Then these unitary matrices may be represented with, if B is same as that of A and B is same as that of A, then the same YKL as where you have represented here, where the unitary transformation representation as an orthogonal or orthonormal representation of the basis function, then YKL may be represented as sigma m equal to 0 to n minus 1 and n equal to 0 to double summation n minus 1. AKM, whatever may be the first image or first matrix AKM, x of Mn, A Ln. This is what is being represented as y equal to A x A transpose in unitary separable representation. Similarly, the same image or a two-dimensional signal may be extracted back by inverse transformation. The inverse transformation kernel may be A star Km, which may be represented by taking the forward transformation equation YKL A star Ln. So here x may be represented as A star transpose Y A transpose. So therefore, you can get back your original, the transformed version of the signal in matrix representation, and the inverse transformation you can get. Y is the transformation matrix and x is the inverse transformation matrix. That is the original matrix or original signal. Most of the images may be represented as my image representation. You can see here each and every pixel may be taken here, F00, F01, F02 and so on. The rows may be completed, okay, like this, up to, if it is an image of size n by n, okay, if the image is of size n by n, this is my f00, f01, and so on up to f0 comma n minus 1. So therefore, I will have n number of columns. Similarly, the second row will be f10, f11, and so on up to f1 comma n minus 1. Likewise, I have to complete my rows and columns such that my last point here, my last pixel may be n minus 1 comma fn minus 1 comma n minus 1 for an n by n image. So therefore, every image may be represented as a matrix. So that is the reason why people thought of representing the separable unitary transformations as a unitary matrix representation, so that through matrix manipulations one can operate on X to get back the transformed matrix and operate on Y to get the original matrix. That is what is the signal. With respect to images, you can say that when A into A star transpose is equal to A transpose times A star, we call it as an identity matrix. If such is the property which is being represented as the unitary matrices A comma B, then B may be considered as same as that of A. Then only these two forward and inverse transformation equations in separable and unitary form where holds good, and these matrix representations may be satisfied. Now, how the energy conservation is being important. Energy conservation property is nothing but when a particular transform is capable of storing maximum energy and in minimum number of transform domain coefficients, then the energy packing density of the transform is said to be the best. Once again, I am repeating, majority, some of the unitary transformations, they are capable of packing the entire signal energy in fewer number of transform domain coefficients. One such transform is DCT. DCT will pack the entire signal energy in fewer number of coefficients. What do you mean by the fewer number of coefficients? These fewer number of transform domain coefficients are large enough for me in order to get back my original signal without loss of the generality. How do you calculate the loss of generality? The loss of generality may be calculated by just measuring the peak signal to noise ratio after the inverse transformation. After the inverse transformation, if the PSNR or the visible outcome of the inverse transformed or the inverse transformation version of the signal is satisfactory to the viewer, definitely we can say that the energy packing density of such a transform is very, very high. How do you conserve energy? Energy conservation is one of the properties of the unitary transforms. If unitary transformation y equal to ax, then y square may be represented as x square, and here the y square may be represented in terms of x square like this. Y star transpose y is equal to x star transpose a star transpose a. Why? Because a star transpose a equal to I, as we have seen. A star transpose A and okay, X star transpose or Y star transpose Y may be represented as X star transpose X, where X star transpose is sigma n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n square, which we want to call it as y square and x square both are equal. This is the unitary transformation matrix property with respect to the energy conservation, which means that every unitary transformation is simply a rotation of the vector x in the n-dimensional vector space. We can alternatively state the same statement as a unitary transformation is a rotation of the basis coordinates and the components of y. Y is nothing but the transformed version of the signal or the projections of x on the new basis. Again, we come out with a new definition. The projection of the basic signal, the projection of the original signal x on the basis function of a particular transformation is nothing but the unitary transformation. What do we do is on the, we try to project x on the x inverse transpose. That is, we try to project the original signal x on the basis function of the transform y. Then the kind of transform is called as a unitary transform. This is the energy conservation property of the unitary transform. Energy compaction, as I discussed earlier, unitary transforms will pack a large fraction of the average energy of the image into a relatively fewer number of transform coefficients. That is, many of the transform coefficients contain very little energy. So therefore, those transform coefficients which preserves the least energy, they will be discarded. Those transform coefficients which preserve most of the energy, they will be considered in reconstructing the original signal back. That is what is the energy compaction. And the third property is known as the decorrelation. When the input vector elements are highly correlated, the transform coefficient tend to be uncorrelated. When the input data is highly correlated data, in the transform domain, you will come out with an uncorrelated sequence of the transform coefficients, and uncorrelated, all the transform coefficients will be largely not correlated. So in such a case, we try to calculate the covariance matrix, which may be represented as expectation of y minus E of y and y minus E of y star transpose. This is the covariance matrix. Smaller correlation implies smaller off diagonal terms. Off diagonal terms means the main diagonal quantities for all the almost all unitary transforms we will consider. The off diagonal elements, that is elements which are not on the main diagonal, the small correlation will be seen. We start with DFT. It is already almost 45 minutes is over, another 45 minutes is there. Quickly, as we all may be very familiar with the DFT, quickly I will pass on this part of the presentation. 1D discrete Fourier transform may be represented for a sequence U of n. If you consider a sequence U of n, for a sequence U of n, I need the laser. So U of n may be ranging from 0 to n minus 1, which may be defined as the discrete Fourier transform yk may be represented as 1 by root n sigma n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n wn power nk, where k is 0 to n minus 1. Here, the wn, whatever we used here, is e power minus j2 pi by n. This is what is the DFT kernel. So it may be represented as e power minus j. If you want to use in a forward transformation, e power minus j2 pi by n. In the inverse transformation, we have to represent e power plus j 2 power n, where the two may be represented as complex conjugates of the one another, the forward and inverse transformation kernels. The inverse transform may be represented like this: x of n is equal to 1 by root n sigma. This 1 by root n is optional. If you have used here, there is no need for utilizing this here. 1 by n, generally in many of the books we will be finding it as 1 by n sigma n equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of n wn power nk, where this 1 by root n and 1 by root n product will be 1 by n, which is the average value of the sequence. Why? Because the size of the sequence is n. And if I use 1 by n here, I need not use 1 by root n here. If I use 1 by n here, I need not use 1 by root n here. So therefore, the inverse transformation and the forward transformation may be represented like this: n by n unitary DFT matrix. So we need the matrix to be represented 1 by root n wn power nk is the DFT matrix. It offers circular shifting property. It is unitary. The DFT matrix is unitary and symmetric. By observing this property of F inverse is the F star, and DFT of length n can be implemented by order of n log n, we all know. And DFT of a real sequence may be conjugate symmetric, about half of the size of the sequence, n by 2. That is y star n minus k is yk. These are some of the properties of the DFT. And the separability property, which is very, very important, as we discussed earlier, the separability property will help us. If any transform offers a property called as separability, then the computational complexity of that particular transformation will be minimized. So the separability property says that we can do 2D Fourier transformation as a 1D transformation, that is f of uv. This is the forward two-dimensional transformation on an image f of xy e power minus j 2 pi by n ux plus vy. The inverse Fourier transform may be represented as the inverse Fourier transform equation is not being present here. This f of uv may be computed as 1 by n sigma x equal to 0 to n minus 1 e power j 2 pi ux, and on vy we will use the image f of x. X represents the rows of the image, so x is fixed. By fixing x, row-wise transformation is being computed, and later by fixing the other parameter, Fourier transformation among rows may be computed, and after that among the columns we can compute the Fourier transformation. F of xy maybe the inverse Fourier transformation, the inverse DFT along rows and inverse DFT along columns, and the full inverse transformation for 2D. This is what is the equation: 1 by n sigma u and v. Here u equal to 0 to n minus 1 and v equal to 0, provided the size of the image f of xy should be of n by n. So here x represents the rows of image, so x we have fixed here, and on computing that, this we can the entire 1 by n sigma y equal to 0 to n minus 1 f of xy e power minus j 2 pi by n vy may be represented as f of x comma v. Fourier transformation along rows is being computed, and after that by fitting it here we can get back the row-wise transformation and the column-wise transformation. Similarly, the inverse transformation may be computed, and the IDFT along rows and inverse DFT along columns. What is the basic advantage with the separability property offered by the DFT is it is much simpler and less time complex. Row-wise transformation, then column-wise transformation, and inverse transformation is the ease of computing the transform, because the separability property is being offered. Well, let us consider an image f of xy of size n by n, which is the original image. The row transformed image look like this, and the column transformed image will look like this, and this is the intermediate coefficients of the Fourier transform among rows, and the column transformation on this particular row transformed image will give you the f of uv. And another important point for those people who are interested in those who are working in signals in transform domain, please do not look into the details of the signal in transform domain. Is there any correlation between the original image and the transformed version of the image? This is what is the transformed version of the image, and this is what is the original image. Please do not look into the detail. Some people will say that see, the face region is being here, the hat region is here, the nose region is here, and the shoulder region is here. Some people will speak like this also. So in a transform domain, we do not know whatever may be the transform coefficient, which comprise of how much energy. The energy distribution of the transform domain coefficient is the representation. The information with the energy distribution only we can see here, but please do not look into the details to be seen in the transform domain version of the signal. So now, if this is f of xy, this is my f of uv, the transform version of the original image may be seen like this. If you try to display this as an image after row transformation, it looks like this. After column row or transformed image, column transformation also completed, it will look like this. This is a sample representation of the image with the transform, where the separability property f of xv is computed here, and on f of xv, f of uv is being computed, like what we have done. Mathematically, f of xv may be computed. After that, f of xv and f of uv you can see here. Okay, capital F means the transformed version. Another property offered by this is translation. Translation of x and y by x naught, y naught may be represented like this: f of x minus x naught, comma y minus y naught. This is the translation property. Fourier transform offers translation property. we will get through transformation, the magnitude part and the phase part may be seen like this. Quickly I will be moving. Inverse Fourier transform also can be computed through translation. You can see the inverse Fourier, this is the forward transformation and this is the inverse transformation by utilizing the translation property of the Fourier transform, which shifts the x naught y naught, which doesn't change the Fourier spectrum, but it adds some phase shift difference. And the periodicity property also being offered by the Fourier transform. The periods discrete Fourier transform is periodic with the period n. The periodicity property and its proof can be observed here. I will share the presentation. Don't worry about the presentation. And it also offers the conjugate symmetry property. If f of xy is the well-valued function, when f star indicate the complex conjugate, the Fourier spectrum may be f of uv may be f of minus u minus v. This property will help us to visualize the Fourier spectrum. Let x equal to r cos theta and y equal to sin theta, then u may be represented as w cos phi and v may be represented as sin phi, where the rotation property, the rotated image in spatial domain and in frequency domain you can see here. Now the rotated image is f of r comma theta plus theta naught, and which may be represented like this in spatial domain. This is the transformed domain which offers a rotation of theta naught, and the Fourier transformed version of the rotated image may be seen like. Some of the transforms will offer translation, rotation and scaling. We call those transforms as RST invariant transforms. That is the basic requirement. If a transform offers RST invariance, definitely I can use those transforms for compact representation of a signal, for example, an image or any other signal representation. And it also offers convolution property. In continuous domain, the Fourier transform of convolution is product of their Fourier transforms. In spatial domain, the convolution, and in transform domain, the product of their Fourier transforms, where f of xy is the image and h of xy is the kind of transformation tool or the filter that you use for the transformation. And g of xy may be the transformed version of the image, then g of xy may be represented as f of xy convolved with h of xy. This kind of g of xy with respect to images, we use them for filtering, we use them for enhancement, we use it for restoration by a proper choice of the filter. We use it for the filter transformation function is choice of the filter depend on the application. I choose a low pass filter if my signal comprises of much of noise. I choose a high pass filter if my signal is blurred. I choose a band pass filter if I want to take the mid frequency region of the signal. I choose a particular restoration filter like a median filter as h of xy for restoring my signal f of xy if my signal is being corrupted by salt and pepper kind of a noise. It all depends on the kind of application which demands us to choose the filter transfer function. So the output of the linear LTA transformation with the power spectral function h of xy to an input image, maybe the transformed version, the Fourier representation of this g of xy, maybe g of uv. The Fourier transform of f of xy is f of uv. Fourier transformation of h of xy is h of uv. This is how we use by a proper choice of the filter transfer function for a particular application. If it is enhancement application, we choose a proper filter. If it is a restoration kind of application, I will again choose a different filter. In other words, the output spectrum g of uv is the product of the input spectrum f of uv and the transfer function h of uv. So the Fourier transform can be used as a computational tool to simplify the convolution operation. You can see here. And the convolution property for discrete images also one can see here. The average value, as I told you, and I can calculate the average value of an image. Why? Because the image is of size n by n. A DC value, which is the average value, doesn't have any impact on the frequency domain distribution or the coefficient distribution of the signal in transform domain or frequency domain. So this is what is the average value, which is the average pixel intensity. That is sum of all the intensities. F of mn is an image where m and n ranging from 0 to n minus 1. All the intensities are summed up, divided with the size of the image. N by n is the size of the image. I will get the average value. Okay. So if I use this average value, then what will happen is, notice that substituting u equal to 0 and v equal to 0 in the transformed domain version of the signal, f u equal to 0 and v equal to 0, m and n ranging from 0 to n minus 1 f of m n will give you n square the average value, or the average value may be represented as 1 by n square f00. So therefore, another definition of this average value is 1 by n square f00. For that, what is that we do is, I cannot as it is compute the Fourier transform unless otherwise I will fix the origin. The Fourier origin should fall here, then only I can identify equidistant points as the equal frequency distributed points. Like when I move a small distance from the origin, if this 0, 0 is being shifted here by just pre-multiplying minus 1 whole power of x plus y and times f of x, then the fixing of origin will be thrown here. Then what is that advantage I'll get is, if I traverse equal distance on all directions, like a circle drawn with some radius r which is small, I can consider this region as a low pass region. If r is large, I can consider this region as a high pass region. In between these two, I can consider it as a mid frequency region. So therefore, for that we will fix the origin, which is the average value. And the next transformation we are interested in looking into is a transform which we call it as DCT, discrete cosine transform, which is a very useful transformation for compression kind of activity when we are interested in performing on images, which helps separate image into parts of different importance. The DCT is similar to DFT. DCT and DFT may be correlated to one another, the transformation signal of image from spatial domain to frequency domain. This is a kind of transform which gives coefficients that carry information about the pixels of the image. Interestingly, much of the transformation is contained in few coefficients. This is the point to be noted here. Much of the transform domain coefficients, much of the signal energy or the information, much of the information is contained in very few coefficients. The remaining coefficients carry minimal information, so therefore those coefficients which carry minimal information may be discarded. Those coefficients which comprise of majority of the much of the information may be preserved, and these preserved coefficients can be used, and these minimal information carrying coefficients may be removed without losing much of the information. This is the beauty of DCT. And in spatial domain, DCT and DFT, DCT may be performed as a transform which may be considered as a real transform. DFT is a complex transformation function. 1D DCT and 2D DCT you can see here. Through the Fourier transformation one can correlate. Please note it down. This is what is the only difference between one transform to other transformation is its kernel. Cos 2x plus 1 u pi by 2 pi is what is the kernel. That is what we are using for a one-dimensional transformation. Okay, this is what is my basis function. This is what is the change. AU, which is some constant, which is root 1 by n when u equal to 0, and otherwise when u is from 1 to n minus 1, 2 by root n. When computing using a transformation, we never start it with 0, we will start it with 1 to and then beyond, whatever may be the size of the signal or whatever may be the size of the sequence that is at hand. For 1D, the DCT, forward transformation equation, C of u is A of u, you take it as some constant as 1 by n or 1 by root n as what we have used in case of DFT. And this A u takes on two different values which can easily be remembered, 1 by n under root when u equal to 0 2 by n under root when u is none other than u equal to 0. That is from 1 to n minus 1, where the sequence x equal to 0 to n minus 1 f of x, the original signal, times cos 2x plus 1 u pi by 2n, where 0 less than or equal to u less than or equal to n minus 1 is the forward transformation equation of the discrete cosine transform, which is a very useful transformation, especially when we are interested in reducing the dimension of the signal in transform space. And similarly, the inverse transformation may be obtained. That is how to get back my original signal. F of x is sigma u equal to 0 to n minus. Here the change is not on x. Here the variation is on the transform domain variable u equal to 0 to n minus 1 au cu times. Here also cu may be taking on any values. Au may be taking on any value which is between 1 by root n, root 1 by n and root 2 by n, cos 2x plus 1 u pi by 2n. Cos 2x plus 1 u pi by 2n may be the kind of inverse and forward transformation kernel. Only thing that is what is changing is this is what is being utilized here, the transformed signal, and this is what is the original signal. That is only the change. So it is easy to remember. The another thing we need to remember for DCT is this particular part a of u, which is root 1 by n for u equal to 0. Otherwise, it is root 2 by n. So the forward and inverse transformation kernels are one and same. So this is again another beauty for the transform for compact representation of the signal, which can be represented as a unitary transform. It can also be shown that DCT is a unitary transform. The difference with DFT is that the signal is projected onto real sine waves instead of a complex. Why real sine wave? Cos and sine are the two functions that we generally utilize them as the two orthogonal functions. Here, cos 2x plus 1 u pi by 2n is being used as the Fourier, the DCT kernel, whereas in case of DFT, both e power plus and minus may be utilized, cos and sine, both the functions that are being utilized. Here e power j 2 pi, which may be cos 2 pi plus j sin 2 pi or minus j sin 2 pi, which may be a complex, results in a complex representation, whereas DCT makes use of the real representation. The difference between the DCT and DFT is that the signal is projected into a real sine waves, that is the sinusoidal signal. Cosine and cosine functions are called sinusoidal functions. The real sine waves means we can also call DCT as a real transform, DFT as a complex transform. And here, when you want to consider a two-dimensional function like image, this is the DCT representation, AU, AV. That is why we have a two-dimensional signal at hand with the size of the image m by n, x equal to 0 to m minus 1 and sigma y equal to 0 to n minus 1, the original signal f of x, cos 2x plus 1 u pi by 2m, and for the rows, and cos 2y plus 1 v pi by 2n for columns. It is quite simpler, where u is ranging from 0 to m minus 1 and v is ranging from 0 to n minus. This is what is the forward transformation equation of DCT. Similarly, the original signal, the inverse transformation equation may be seen here. The inverse transformation may be obtained like AUAV, the original transformation representation of the signal C of UV, cos, as the forward and inverse kernels are same, cos 2x plus 1 u pi for row-wise transformation, inverse transformation, and column-wise inverse transformation, 2y plus 1 into v pi by 2n, it is for columns. For the variable quantity is x and y here. X is ranging from 0 to m minus 1 and y is ranging from 0 to n minus 1. AU is defined like previously, that is a of u and a of v is root 1 by n and root 2 by n for u equal to 0 and v equal to 0, and root 2 by n for u equal to 1 to m minus 1, v equal to 0 to 1 to n minus 1. Here, the Fourier in 1D is C times F, which is the cosine transformation matrix, and here F in 2 dimension is CF into C transpose. Here, the rows and columns you can see here as what we have seen earlier with respect to an image. C of uv is 1 by root n and 2 by root n for u equal to 0, 2 by root n cos 2v plus 1 u pi by 2n for between 1 to n minus 1 and 0 to n minus 1. U and v are ranging from 0 to n minus 1, then you can take C of uv like this. And coming to the properties of dCt, which is real and orthogonal for C equal to C star and C inverse, which is also equal to its transpose. dCt is a non-symmetric, it doesn't offer the property of symmetry. dCt is a fast transform which requires the same computation as DFT, order of n log n to the base 2. The energy compaction is not simple. This is what is the beautiful property of dCt. What makes people even to use dCt as a standard measure in JPEG compression. In JPEG for text compression, text image compression, or image compression, or speech compression, or any signal compression, JPEG 2000 you can say, which is making use of the discrete cosine transformation as its basis for compressing the given signal because of its excellent energy compaction property for highly correlated data. Highly correlated data may be an image, maybe an audio, maybe a speech signal, maybe a signal which comprises of real-time information, which is useful in designing transform quaders. We call them as JPEG is a kind of compression coding technique. Transform quaders and Wiener filters also make use of dCt. As I told you, Wiener filter is a kind of filter which we make use of in restoring the lost content present in the signal. Another 20-25 minutes is left over. The next transform is the Hadamard transform. The elements of the basis vectors of a particular signal, the elements of the basis vectors of a signal, which takes only the two binary values +1 and -1, which is well suited for some of the DSP applications. The transform matrix may be represented here for an n by n, where n is represented as 2 power n for n equal to 1, 2, 3, and so on. The core matrix, which we try to always represent in terms of Hadamard as 1, 1, 1 minus 1 into 1 by root. This is what is the core Hadamard transformation matrix. In terms of matrix, hereafter we will represent as a unitary matrices. Hadamard transform basis function is this. When a 2D forward and inverse Hadamard kernels are being given, then G of XYUV is the kernel, forward transformation kernel, and H of XYUV is the inverse transformation kernel of Hadamard transform, which may be represented as 1 by n sigma I equal to 0 to n minus 1 minus 1 load power of BIX, BIU plus BIY, BIV, where X corresponds to the row transform U and Y corresponds to the column transformation V in the transform domain representation. Here, G of XYUV and H of XYUV are the forward and inverse Hadamard transformation kernels, which also offers the separability and symmetry property. Then H of UV may be represented as the forward and inverse Hadamard transformation equation may be represented as H of UV. If it is the forward transform on the image f of xy, then we have to take this as the forward transform 1 by n, sigma x equal to 0 to n minus 1 and y equal to 0 to n minus 1. The signal on which we want to perform the transform is taken. It is an image -1 power sigma I equal to -1 power sigma I equal to 0 to n minus 1 bi of x, bi of u, bi of y, bi of. Similarly, the inverse transformation will make use of this, and this is what is the inverse transformation. The inverse transformation may be obtained by taking this as the inner product. This is the inverse transformation kernel, and this is the forward transformation kernel. Okay, so this is how the Hadamard transform may be obtained. This may be the, as a h of n may be the basis with 1, 1, 1 minus 1, which h2 may be considered as the basis, or we can consider h4 as a basis. For the matrix Hn can be obtained by Kronecker product of recursion. The recursion is being based on the basic transformation equation 1 by root 2 1 1 1 minus 1. This 1 by root 2 1 1 minus 1, and h3 may be a recursion of h2 with h1. h2 may be a recursion of two h1s, and you please come afterwards, I am in a class. So therefore h3 3 or 2 is nothing but 2 to the power of 3 or 2 to the power of 2 or 2 to the power of 1. h1 is nothing but 2 power 1. h1 may be this one. When I want h2, that will become 2 power 2, which will be h2 may be represented as h2 may be represented up till this. h3 means h2 and h1 is to be represented. As h2 is 2 h1s, and you have to use 1 by 2 power 3, that is 8, and this is what is 1, 2, 3, 4. You have each, this is again another h1, this is another h1, this is another h1. Such h1s you need to represent 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3. This will become h3. Okay. So for n equal to 3, you will be representing it like this. For h2, you can see here, for h2, you have h1, h1, and another h1 and h2. We have a 4 by 4 Hadamard transformation matrix, which we take it as the kernel. The Hadamard transformation for 1D, which represents the symmetric property, and which is again a non-sinusoidal function, where you can strictly call this as h1. If I want this to be called as h1, I have to use 1 by root 2 to the power of 1. If it is h2, 1 by root 2 to the power of 2. If it is h3, 1 by root 2 to the power of 3. Likewise, you need to h is represented as 1 1 1 minus 1, which is a 2 by 2 transformation matrix. Similarly, for h2, we can represent like this. And the Hadamard base will give a Kronecker product of the matrices. What is the Kronecker product is nothing but, if A is an MIN matrix and B is a PQ matrix, then the Kronecker product may be represented as MP by NQ, where the Kronecker product of A and B may be represented as A11B up to A1MB. Similarly, this is first row. The nth row, or the size of the A is M by N. This will be up to N columns and M rows. So therefore, M1B and MNB. Okay. So therefore, this is how the Kronecker product may be computed for a matrix transformation, which we use a Hadamard transform. Coming to the properties of Hadamard transformation, and another application of properties, I'll tell you. The number of sign changes in a row is called as sequence. The sequence of H3 is 0734. You can see H3 here, 0734 is H3. No sign change along the row. Okay. How many sign changes we can observe? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Likewise, the 7 sign changes. There is no sign change. Here one sign change. There is no sign change. There is another sign change. If there is no sign change, there is another sign change. There is no sign change. That's why 3 or 4. How many sign changes? 0, 1, and then 2, and then 3. 3 times the sign change. This is what, for some transforms, the sequence may be sometimes utilized for a particular application. Hadamard transform sequence is 0734 for H3. 1625. This is what is the sequence. The transform is real and symmetric. H star is H and H transpose is equal to H inverse. The transform is also a faster transform, and it will also provide good energy compaction, but not excellent like DCT. And for highly correlated data, we can use with good energy compaction, we can make use of Hadamard transform. Those who are working in image with the human visual system, in order to model the human visual system, Hadamard transform can be preferred. Why? Because whatever the way in which you look into the image, we look into the image by our vision. Whatever the way in which you look into the image, Hadamard transform also look into the image like a human visual system. In order to simulate the human visual system, we can make use of a Hadamard transform. That is the application of Hadamard transform. The next transform is Haar transform. Haar has introduced the first wavelet symmetry. Haar transform comes under the category of wavelets. In the afternoon, while discussing the wavelet basis and the wavelet based applications, we will discuss about Haar. For time being, I am just skipping the Haar transform. In the afternoon, in detail, I will discuss the Haar transform. Now we will try to complete the remaining transform, that is Walsh transformation, in another 10 minutes. Based on the Hadamard transformation, Walsh transform is being developed. It is just a sequentially ordered Hadamard transform. It is just, this is very important point, the listeners should be kept making use of a note. It is a sequentially ordered Hadamard transform, means Hadamard transform sequence is not proper 07341625, whereas in Walsh transform, people thought of making this sequence as a proper one. Sequencing means the number of sign changes along a row. So the non-sinusoidal orthogonal transformation, that is what we have seen, which focus on the count and the sign changes in the H matrix. The Walsh transformation, WT, stands for discrete Walsh transform, which can be used in many different applications such as power spectral analysis, filtering, speech processing, and medical signal processing, multiplexing and coding in communication, characterizing nonlinear signals, solving nonlinear differential equations, and logical design analysis. Also, we make use of the Walsh transform. So therefore, it is just a simple change transform with respect to Hadamard transform. Based on the Hadamard transform, if the sequence is being ordered, we come out with the new transform, which we call it as Walsh transform. And this transform is slightly different from the one you have just seen so far. Suppose we have a function f of x ranging from 0 to n minus 1, where n may be represented as 2 power n. We use binary representation of x and u. The binary representation we will make use of. This is a strict digital transformation where the binary representation may be used. We need n bits to represent the transform coefficient. x10 may be represented as bn minus 1x, bnx, and so on, b up to b0 to the base 2, which is a binary kind of thing, whose forward transformation equation w of u for a one-dimensional signal f of x may be represented as 1 by n. Please note down, sigma x equal to 0 to n minus 1 f of x, pi I equal to 0 to n minus 1 whole to the power of bi of x, bn minus 1 minus I of u. Why we use pi here? Pi is a product. Earlier for Hadamard transformation, we have used the summation. It uses a sum, and pi is a product. Sigma is sum, pi is a product, where w of u may be represented as 1 by n sigma x equal to 0 to n minus 1 f of x, and this may be taken outside, minus 1 whole to the power of sigma I equal to 1 to n minus 1. These two may be identical. Okay. So the transformation kernel value is obtained from T of ux transformation kernel, and we can also represent it as T of xu, which we call it as sigma I equal to 0 to n minus 1 minus 1. So pi I equal to 0 to n minus 1 minus 1 whole power bi of x bn minus 1 I of u. This is what is being the transformation kernel. Okay. The transformation kernel is an array which is being formed by the Walsh matrix, which is real and symmetric matrix. It is easy to show that the orthogonal columns and rows may be obtained. These are the row column representation of the Walsh transformation matrix F0 to Fn minus 1 transpose. For F forward transformation, W may be W0 to, this is for a signal and this is for the transformed version of the signal. The Walsh transformation W may be represented as T times F, where T is the forward transformation kernel. As mentioned previously, the matrix T is real, symmetric and orthogonal, which comprise of rows and columns. We can also easily show that T inverse is n and nt, and n is the size of the signal. Here, the inverse transformation equations of the Walsh transformed version of the signal Wx, which may be extracted as f of x equal to sigma x equal to 0 to n minus 1 Wx pi I equal to 0 to n minus 1 log to the power of bi of x bn minus 1 minus I of u. The above is again equivalent to this because this minus 1 may be taken outside the product, and we can write it as minus 1 over the power of sigma I equal to 1 to n. If I want to take out this product term in terms of the sigma, this is how we need to represent. The array that is being formed by the inverse Walsh matrix is identical to that of the one which is formed by the forward Walsh matrix. The forward transformation kernel and the inverse transformation kernel of the Walsh matrix are one, and this is what is the forward transformation kernel, and this is what is the inverse transformation kernel of the Walsh matrix. Both are identical. Okay, and which is being formed by Walsh transform apart from the multiplicative factor n, except for that, which is for 2D, if we extend instead, WUV may be written as double summation x equal to 0 to n minus 1 and y equal to 0 to n f of xy pi I. If you want to remove pi and then minus 1 power sigma I equal to 1 to n, may be the generalized forward representation of the Walsh transformation equation. This is the inverse transformation equation for Walsh transform. Coming to the kernel of Walsh transformation matrix, the 1D signal forward and inverse kernels differ only in the constant multiplicative factor. This is the only difference. In any transformation, if any DC term is differing, it doesn't change the transform coefficients, which is because of the array formed by the kernel is a symmetric matrix having orthogonal rows and columns. The kind of rows and columns that are being formed in Walsh domain, they are orthogonal rows and columns. That also we will see in the later part of the discussion. The 2D signal and the forward inverse transformation Walsh kernels are identical. The forward and the inverse kernels of the Walsh matrix are identical. This is another point which the brethren should make a note of it. Fast computation of Walsh transform, there exists an algorithm called as fast Walsh transform. In MATLAB dictionary also it is readily available. This is how the sequence, you can see for the first row, you can see the change from the sequence is 1 1, there is no change, 1 1, there is no change, 1 1, there is no change. The first row, the sequence is 0. And similarly for the second row is 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1. For the second row, 1 minus 1, 1 minus. This is one change, this is another change, and this is another change. Okay, that is 3. This is 3 here. We need to write this. If you take the third row, 1 1 minus 1, this is H2. 1 1 1 minus 1 minus 1. The kind of change that sequence, if you want to write, the change here is no, and the change here is 1 sign change. Here there is no sign change. So therefore sequence is 1. For the fourth row, if you take 1 minus 1 minus 1 1, 1 minus 1 minus 1. This is one change, there is no change, this is another change. Okay, here. So therefore 0, 1, 2, 3 is the sequence, right? So here the number of sign changes you can identify here. The Walsh matrix build according to the number of sign changes. Okay, Walsh matrix may be built according to the number of sign changes. So therefore, according to the number of sign changes, we have to make the H matrix. This is the Hadamard matrix. You can see the Hadamard matrix is being taken. This is H1, another H1, another H1. Okay, finally this is what is being moved: 0 sequence, 1 sequence, 2 sequence, and 3 sequence. This we want to call it as the row corresponding to the number of sign changes, and the number of sign changes corresponds to the sequence. The Walsh matrix may be computed for 1D and 2D, like the Hadamard and the DCT also. It offers the symmetric property. Walsh transform offers a symmetry property also. With this, my presentation is over, and these are some of the references that we have used for the presentation part of the discussion. And it is exactly 11:30 now. And again, I will just summarize why we go for transform is to look into the signal better. Why transform? To represent the signal in a compact way. Why transformation? For fast computation of the transformer result. Why we again go for transformation is in order to explore the signal processing properties offered by the transformation. There are few transforms which are represented as the orthogonal or biorthogonal basis, which is the series summation representation. By just utilizing the properties of the matrices, all the 2D transforms are being developed. Majority of the 2D transforms offers separability and symmetry property. Some of them offers rotation, translation, and scaling. And we have seen 1D DFT, 2D DFT, DCT, discrete Haar transform, discrete Walsh transform, and discrete Hadamard transform. In detail, the Walsh transform, the Haar transform, we can discuss in detail. Applications of DCT is for signal compression. Application of Hadamard transform is for modeling the human visual system. Application of Walsh transform are numerous number of applications, as what we have seen. For communication applications, signal processing applications, we can have many number of applications with Walsh transformation. And Walsh and Hadamard transformations are related to one another. In Hadamard transformation, we cannot have a proper sequence. In Walsh transformation, we can get a better sequence. A proper sequence order transform is nothing but the Walsh transformation. With this, I am closing the session. Thank you very much. Any questions are there? You can.
Thank you, sir.
And another thing I just would like to tell you all is, as you are not students, I think all the participants are researchers and PG students. And because of that, I have utilized the second level version of my presentation. If my first level version of presentation is required, I don't deliver in this way for the BTech students. For BTech students, I will discuss 1 hour for DFT, 1 hour for DCT, 1 hour for Walsh and Hadamard transform. The same I will deliver in double the amount of time. That is the only difference. I also request you to please go through the very useful books, especially for image transformation. And you have a digital image processing 4th edition book. If you can see, it is here with me. You can see this book. Is it visible?
Yes.
This is what is the 4th edition, in which those who are doing research in image processing, please do read this book, which is quite useful. All image transforms are included in this book. Feature extraction is included in this book, and one or the other machine learning tools are also being included. 3 chapters are included. It is a very useful book, 4th edition. Just recently it has come to the market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Any doubts from the participant side?
Any questions, they can feel free to ask. I will try to answer.
Yes, sir. Any doubts?
Those who are pursuing, another suggestion to students, those who are interested in learning more about transformations, there is a book by the name of the author Gopinath and Burrows. Those who want to do more numerical kind of problems, those who are writing their pre-PhD in transform techniques, I suggest them to go through Gopinath and Burrows textbook for doing or for exploring yourself to more number of worked out and as well exercise problems. And the majority of the transform technique question paper, any examiner will look into that particular book before giving the question paper. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much.
Sir will continue the afternoon session also. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right. Thank you.
So we will meet at 2 o'clock, sir. 2 o'clock.
Can we make it to 2:30? I have little.
30.
Can we make it 2:30
Yeah,
today?
yeah, no problem, sir. No problem.
Little works are there. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make it 2:30 today.
Yes, sir. Afternoon session will start at 2:30, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Dear participants, afternoon session will start at 2:30. 2:30 to around 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Close the meeting.
Right.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Okay, sir.